Hey guys, this is Joe Theo with Vid Authority. I saw one person ask a question the other day about having a blurry background, having a shallow depth of field, and I thought I would talk about how to get that cool effect because I see it's something that's really popular and you might not really know a lot about it. It's based on a couple basic photography principles, so you might actually be able to achieve this with your current camera without having to upgrade anything. So that's what I'm going to really go over. So there are two main things that contribute to depth of field. There's a third one that's kind of like a factor between those two. I'll talk about that in a bit. The first main one is aperture. When you open up the aperture of the camera wider, the depth of field gets shallower, and that's because light's coming in at different angles, more angles onto the sensor. So there's a shallower depth of field where the light is going to be parallel with the sensor. I'm not really going to get into it. Just know that you open up the aperture, shorter depth of field, you close the aperture, make it smaller, higher f-stop number is going to be a bigger depth of field. And the second thing that contributes to depth of field is focal length. So if you have a camera that's really zoomed in, optical zoom, not digital zoom, then you're going to get a shallower depth of field. Now, a bigger contribution is probably going to be the aperture, but zooming in will shorten that depth of field and give you a potentially blurrier background. So if you want to blur your background and your camera doesn't have aperture control, then what you can try to do is zoom in. So if you're on a camcorder, you can zoom in, put the camera across the room and film like that. Now the problem you run into with that, if you're using an on-camera microphone, then of course you're going to be recording from all the way across the room. You're going to get a lot of echo. But if you have a microphone that's wired to your camera, or you're just recording on the computer, something that's right in front of you, then you shouldn't have that problem because you can just sync it up. So these two features are something you can control with any DSLR or mirrorless cameras, and probably some point and shoots as well. For camcorders where they're handheld, probably not the aperture, maybe, but a lot of those are designed for ease of use. They don't assume that people are going to be wanting to control the aperture and shutter speed and all that. So you might have a hard time, but you can at least try to zoom in, and that should work. And I'll show you actually an example. I am right now at f8.0, which is pretty much right in the middle of the aperture range, which is typically the sharpest towards the middle. But I'm going to change it to 4.0 and show you guys the difference. Alright, so now I'm at f4.0, it's a wider aperture, should be the same lighting, I think I set it up right, and you should notice there is a slightly blurrier background. Now you're probably wondering what that third factor I was talking about before is, and that is sensor size. If you take a full frame sensor and frame it up, same exact composition as a smaller sensor like a APS-C or 1.6 crop factor, you're going to get a blurrier background on the full frame bigger sensor, but it's not necessarily just because of the sensor size. So the reason for this is because you have to get closer or zoom in more with the bigger sensor, because a bigger sensor is going to have a wider field of view because there's no crop factor. I don't want to get too technical in this, that's for another day, but basically you should know that the reason a bigger sensor has a shallower depth of field is not necessarily because of the sensor itself, but because of how you have to frame it up to get the same composition. So it's more of an indirect way of decreasing the depth of field. And I guess that's everything I know, and probably more than you need to know about depth of field. I hope you guys found this at least a little bit useful. Hopefully you are able to take something from this video and use it. You can test it out, have fun with it on your next video, and let me know how it goes. So you guys can talk about it in the comments section below. We can continue this. I'm always looking down there, and I'll try to respond. You can also give it a thumbs up if you guys liked it, and check the right for other videos. You can click it or check the description for the same link. And if you're new around here, feel free to subscribe. I try to make new videos 3 times a week, and I love to hear from you guys about feedback and possible questions for video topics. So anyway, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know how it goes, and thanks for watching. I will see you next time.